From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ijoma Onyato.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, it's a long night for parents of abducted students of Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, as they kept vigil at the school premises, anxiously waiting for the return of their children. We would never get tired of engaging with the executive until security is improved. Now, that's the vow by senators who are asking the president to act fast in addressing the current situation in the country. House of Representatives alleges foul play, asks federal government to stay action on the recruitment of 774 workers under the Special Public Works Program. And another COVID-19 breakthrough underway as Moderna's vaccine awaits approval after regulators say it's 94% effective. Plus business, sports, and later on international news from our London studios.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's foreign reserves sinks to 8-month low at $34.85 billion amid declining inflow of foreign exchange.
On sports news tonight, National Council of Sports proposes new dates for the sports festival to be held in Benin City in Edo State.
It's indeed a tough time for the parents of abducted students of Government Science Secondary School, Kankara in Katsina State, as they are now more worried over the uncertainty surrounding the return of their abducted children. The government had promised to ensure the safe return of the boys within a short period. The parents are more anxious as they keep vigil in the school premises, waiting patiently for their children to return.
The wind blows. A chilly reminder of what happened here a few days ago. Over 300 students were seized from the Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, in Katsina State. Classroom dorms left in a state of hurried confusion. Residents, mostly parents, still linger around the school gate, hoping for relieving news. They have vowed not to leave until then.
Shabby said they will bring 9 o'clock this morning. They don't bring any children. Hey, and they don't bring anything. Then say 9 don't pass, 10, 11, 12. They don't bring anything. Yenzu 1 don't pass, they don't see anything.
Some of the students, however, were able to escape from their captors. One of them is 13-year-old Khalid Mani. His father is gladdened by his return, but wishes that other parents experience the same feeling of joy.
I feel happy the way I saw my son, but I'm not happy the way which some of the people they are not around up to date.
17 other students are reported to have earlier escaped. With the search intensifying by security agents, the families of the remaining students in captivity wait anxiously for the safe return of their children.
Meanwhile, the tension over security in Katsina State has prompted the Zamfara State Government to order the immediate closure of boarding and day schools along their borders with Katsina. Schools that share borders with Kaduna and Sokoto states have also been shut because they are prone to attacks by bandits. A total of 10 schools in Zamfara State have been shut down. 6 of them are boarding schools, while the other 4 are for day students. The State Commissioner for Education, Ibrahim Abdullahi, says the action is necessary considering the security situation in the country and to prevent what happened in Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, Katsina State. If there's anything that lawmakers in the Senate consider a priority at the moment, it's for President Muhammadu Buhari to immediately implement the recommendations of its ad hoc committee on security to solve the growing challenges across the country. This recommendation formed part of a debate on the Kankara school abduction. Our correspondent Linda Akigbe reports that the upper chamber also rejected an additional motion seeking to invite the service chiefs to brief the Senate on measures being taken to rescue the missing students.
Mr. President, bring back our boys.
Another day, another motion in the Senate on insecurity in the country. This time is the abduction of more than 300 schoolboys from Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, Katsina State, on Friday, 11th December 2020. Boko Haram has claimed responsibility for the attack, which was executed in a manner reminiscent of the abduction of the Dapchi and Chibok schoolgirls.
That media reports about this deadly incident indicate that the attackers stormed the school premises and engaged government security agents in a fierce gun battle, forcing hundreds of students to flee and hide in the surrounding forest, while others were reportedly abducted by gunmen.
About 2 weeks ago, the Senate debated the gruesome killings of rice farmers in Zabamari, Borno State, and asked President Buhari to sack the service chiefs. President Buhari is yet to yield to these demands by Parliament, and there appears to be a sense of helplessness by these senators.
Most of us are becoming disenchanted and discouraged. Since Friday, over 300 children had been moved. Then we have security people who are just collecting money and building big houses in Abuja. And then we say that we can only pay lip service. And then we say we are representing the people who are not representing them.
The worst part of this situation is that nobody is talking to us. We're just there as if we're talking rubbish. 333 boys. That's the future of Nigeria. That's the entire two chambers put together. Mr. President, the time has come for us to take drastic action. One of them is that we can't be budgeting for dead people. If we decide that government must do something before we will produce the budget, I am sure they will be up and doing.
This Senate, and indeed the National Assembly, like I said before, should never get tired. Should never get tired. Because imagine we don't discuss these issues. What else can we do? So what we need to do is to look at the architectural design of the security system in the country.
Bothered by President Buhari's unwillingness to implement previous resolutions on insecurity, lawmakers discard the recommendation to invite the service chiefs, the Inspector General of Police, and Director General of the Department of State Service. Senators have frequently criticized President Buhari for refusing to execute his recommendations on insecurity, one of which is to sack the heads of security organizations in the country and replace them with new hands and fresh ideas. Beyond repeatedly making these demands, the upper chamber appears to be unwilling to explore other avenues of getting President Buhari to yield to their demands. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
The House of Representatives had a different debate today, with the lawmakers asking the Minister of State for Labour to stay action on the planned implementation of the Special Public Works Programme for the employment of 774,000 workers. The lawmakers want the process stopped until a comprehensive list of beneficiaries from the Nigerian Directorate of Employment is available. They also condemn the removal of the Director General of the National Directorate of Employment. Our correspondent Terry Ikumi reports.
It would seem that the rift between the Minister of State for Labour, Festus Keyamo, and the National Assembly over the Special Public Works Programme of the federal government, scheduled to commence on the 5th of January 2021, is far from over. Mr. Keyamo and members of the National Assembly have since August openly disagreed on who should implement the program, which seeks to create 774,000 jobs in all local governments of the Federation. Despite the intervention of the President directing the minister to proceed with the program, the House of Representatives is insisting that it should be put on hold.
Greatly concerned that most Nigerians that have submitted their names to the ND offices in their respective states have been unjustly excluded from this program. The House therefore resolved to, 1,
mandates the Minister of State for Labor to stop with immediate effect all processes leading to the commencement of the program on January 5, 2021 until the list of beneficiaries compiled by the ND in each state is used as a basis of selection.
And just like the Senate, the House disagrees with the President on the removal of the Director General of the National Directorate of Employment, who had publicly insisted that his agency, by law, should implement the program.
The removal of the DG, who seems to be following the due process in the execution of this project. So we condemn in total the removal of the DG and call for his immediate reinstatement.
A man has stood up for the right thing to be done. The Director General of National Directorate of Employment. Mr. Speaker, I think when we begin to see things like this come, we have to brief Mr. President beforehand, before Mr. President is being ill-advised to take a decision that will make for the ill will of this government, Mr. Speaker.
An otherwise commendable, very good, ambitious program by Mr. President. We should not allow it to be tainted in any way.
The matter has been directed to the House Committee on Labor to ensure compliance. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
To legal matters, the Edo State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal has reserved ruling to be taken along with the final judgment in the application seeking to strike out the fourth and fifth respondents as parties in the petition filed by the Action Democratic Party and Emmanuel Iboy against INEC, the PDP, Godwin Obaseki, the APC, and Osage Ize-Iyamu. The trial chairman, Justice Yunusa Musa, while making the pronouncement on Tuesday, said the tribunal was of the view that the ruling cannot be taken at this stage of the petition. Also concerning the ruling on two separate motions filed by INEC and the PDP, seeking to strike out the petition of the ADP and Emmanuel Iboy against INEC and four others, and striking out of the names of APC and Ize-Iyamu, the tribunal refused to strike out the petition as well as the names of the All Progressives Congress and Osage Ize-Iyamu as parties at this stage of the petition.
We had actually filed motions, first respondent filed, second and third, seeking to strike out the name of the fourth and fifth from the petition. The fourth and fifth being APC and Ize-Iyamu. They are not, we say they are not necessary parties. If they intend to file petition, they would have filed petition on their own, not coming as respondents. The court has taken arguments, and based on the practice direction, they have reserved ruling till final judgment.
Today we're able to finish our pre-hearing sessions, and the tribunal would issue its pre-hearing report tomorrow, after which we'll go straight to the hearing of the petition itself, which for us is a very narrow issue, whether or not the governor is qualified to contest the elections. So we're going to narrow ourselves to that issue, and that is actually what our issues for determination encapsulates.
And staying with legal matters, the Federal High Court in Abuja has issued an order suspending proceedings indefinitely in a case of alleged forgery involving Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State. The All Progressives Congress and one Williams Edobo, a chieftain of the party, had filed a suit against Governor Obaseki, accusing him of forging the first-degree certificate which he submitted to INEC to enable him contest the election. At the last adjourned date, Governor Obaseki, through his counsel, urged the court to adjourn the matter indefinitely on the grounds that there is a pending application before the Court of Appeal. The governor had also filed an application before a Court of Appeal to stay proceedings of the trial court. At today's sitting, the judge said it will be inappropriate to proceed with the suit, considering the application for stay pending at the Court of Appeal. In part two, after the break, former President Goodluck Jonathan speaks on some critical decisions he took while in office, as captured in a book, Dear President Jonathan, an open letter. That's in a moment. Please join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. Reminder of our top stories. It's a long night for parents of abducted students of Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, as they keep vigil at the school premises, anxiously waiting for the return of their children. Senators vow to continue to engage with the executive until the security situation is radically improved, and they're asking the president to act fast in addressing the current situation in the country. House of Representatives alleges foul play, asks federal government to stay action on the recruitment of 774,000 workers under the Special Public Works Program. And another COVID-19 breakthrough underway as Moderna's vaccine awaits approval after regulators say it's 94% effective. It's not unusual for former presidents to write or have their biographies written by other people. Well, that's what most of the invitees to the book launch in honor of former President Goodluck Jonathan expected. The book, titled Dear President Goodluck Jonathan, an open letter, written by a former managing director of Daily Times, attracted the who's who in the society. But it turned out to be more than just a book launch as the event unfolded. From those who wanted to apologize to the former president for some of their actions in the past, to those who had explanations to offer on some of national issues, it turned out to be a day of revelations.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan, along with other dignitaries, arrived at the venue of a book presentation in his honor in Abuja, titled Dear President Goodluck Jonathan. It's a gathering that attracts politicians across political divides, thus providing the opportunity to speak on some political issues outside the book launch. For the former president, the event is an opportunity to clarify some of the decisions he took while in office.
He mentioned about my removing my Chief of Army Staff, General Ejirika, and he said that because there was so much pressure on me from the north, it was not pressure. If somebody is doing what is right, even if you want to hit my head and split my head, I will not.
Encomiums pour in from dignitaries here, applauding the former president for his humility and for putting national interest ahead of self during the 2015 general elections. Senator Dino Melaye tenders a public apology to the former president, just as the governor of Kano State applauds the former president's Almajiri school program.
I haven't seen what you did as president and the sorry state of our country today. I want to publicly say, once I was blind, now I can see. On behalf of all of us who shot blindly, we are sorry. Very, very sorry.
The Almajiri issue is a big problem, which there was no solution in sight, and you just decided to create the Angaya schools. We cannot forget that. We are multiplying such schools in Kano State. We are making the Almajiri system, the old system, we don't believe in it. We are modifying it, and now we are creating more Almajiri schools in Kano State.
The Kano State Governor also explains why he sacked the former Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi.
Another legacy, which I'm sure all of you will laugh, even before I mention, was the removal of Sanusi Lamido Sanusi from office. And when you removed him, it created bad blood. And let me tell you, Sanusi was later appointed Taban at the Emir of Kano, not because he was the best man, but because by appointing him, that was to retaliate what Jonathan did to him. When I became the governor, that is why you will laugh. I said, yes, Jonathan medicine is an important medicine. That medicine, even though I'm not a medical doctor, but that medicine will serve the same purpose. So I took my Jonathan medicine.
Former President Jonathan was one of the most criticized presidents in Nigeria since 1999. But he is fondly remembered for peacefully handing over power to President Buhari when he lost in the 2015 general elections, an action that has earned him international recognition since he left office.
The Supreme Court has been clarifying reports on the state of health of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Tanko Muhammad, and they're insisting that there is no medical report available to show that the CJN has tested positive for COVID-19. Contrary to reports, and official statements from the Director of Information in the Apex Court explains that no one has so far provided a copy of a purported COVID-19 test result. A justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Ibrahim Salawa, had earlier today mentioned that the CJN had tested positive for COVID-19 and is receiving treatment in Dubai. He said this at the unveiling of the national headquarters of the Muslim Lawyers Association of Nigeria in Abuja. Speculations were rife on Monday following the absence of the CJN at the swearing-in of 72 new senior advocates of Nigeria. Meanwhile, the Kaduna State Government has shut down all public schools across the 23 local government areas of the state due to a second wave of COVID-19. The Commissioner of Education, Mr. Shehu Makarfi, said the directive takes effect from tomorrow, Wednesday, December the 16th. He explains that the ministry decided to shut down the schools due to the rising cases of COVID-19 infections in the state, which show a repeat of figures recorded in the first wave of the pandemic in April, May, and June. He also explains that a new wave of the infection is rapidly spreading across the state and cuts across age groups between 10 and 35 years. He adds that physical classes in the universities and other institutions of higher learning in Kaduna State will not be held during the period of closure. The Commissioner further advises higher institutions to make other arrangements for teaching and learning in line with their continuity and contingency plans. Meanwhile, the Jigawa State Government has also ordered the closure of schools effective from tomorrow. The state government has asked parents to prepare for the evacuation of their children back home from tomorrow, December the 16th. We now have an update on the Katsina school abduction. Kano State has joined the list of states in the region that has shut down private and public schools following the abduction at the government science secondary school in Katsina. Earlier, Zamfara and Jigawa states had ordered the closure of schools sharing boundaries with Katsina State due to the high risk in that area. Well, Kano has also joined the list of schools in that region that will be shutting down private and public schools. BOI Group has donated 3 state-of-the-art ambulances and 100,000 face masks to Borno State Government to combat the COVID-19 pandemic in the state. Handing over the items to the Governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, in the Government House in Maiduguri, the state capital, BOI's Director of Government Relations, Aliyu Idi Hong, says the gesture is the company's contribution to help build better healthcare delivery in the country.
The Governor of Borno State, Babagana Zulum, and other officials of the state government arrive in the open field of the Government House for the presentation of ambulances and face masks by the BOI Group. After the welcoming protocols, representative of the group, Aliyu Idihong, tells Governor Zulum that the company remains committed to the quality of life of Nigerians through social investment programs, adding that the ambulances as well as the face masks are ways of showing that commitment.
BOI Foundation, who in his small ways have been contributing toward improving the quality of life and doing humanitarian services through the foundation. He asked me to donate these 3 ambulance buses with 100,000 face masks cotton made for use toward containing the COVID-19 in Nigeria. Because we are already seeing the second wave. When they were saying second wave, we thought it was a joke. But in the recent few days, we have seen resurgence of this pandemic.
After receiving the items, Governor Babagana Zulum expresses his appreciation to the founder of BOI Group for the donations. He adds that everything will be done to ensure that they are put to good use.
Inshallah, these 3 ambulances and the face masks will go a long way in ensuring, in abating the COVID-19 crisis in the state. This is not his first donation to Borno State. He has been donating a series of items to Borno State before. And therefore, we remain eternally grateful to him.
Thereafter, Governor Zulum takes a ride in one of the ambulances, bringing the event to a close.
When the news at 10 returns, World Bank approves Nigeria's long-awaited $1.5 billion loan request to aid recovery from the impact of COVID-19. And that's all business news. Please join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. The governor of Anambra State, Willie Obiano, has inaugurated the Interministerial Steering Committee on Water, Sanitation, Hygiene and Wash in the state to seek an end to open defecations and sanitation challenges and to beat the WHO 2025 deadline. This is in concession to the fact that access to safe and potable water is just one of the ways to attain sustainable development goals in public health.
In May this year, Governor Willie Obiano inaugurated the Otuocha and Obizi Uga regional water schemes to help improve sanitation and protect the communities as much as possible from coronavirus. Now the federal government, in line with UNICEF, is declaring a state of emergency on water, sanitation and hygiene, wash and eradication of open defecation by 2025, a target set by the WHO. This meeting is to allow the state government to step up its game.
Your Excellency will permit me to enumerate some of the giant strides your administration has rolled out towards addressing the issue in the state wash sector.
The WASH manager for UNICEF Enugu, Mrs. Mamita Borataka, commends the federal government for its move, noting that less than 50% of Nigerians lack access to sanitation.
As we all know, that the federal ministry has declared the state of emergency on WASH 2 and launched the Clean Nigeria campaign to accelerate progress towards an ODF country by 2025. Your Excellency, under your leadership, the state has made significant improvements in the WASH sector. Honorable Commissioner has already listed some of the state's achievements, including the areas in which UNICEF has contributed in the last few years.
Governor Obiano believes the program will really address critical issues of public health, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic still around.
The importance of this event is derived from the fact that clean and healthy habits remain humanity's only armor against all forms of diseases, particularly COVID-19, until a widely accepted vaccine is made available to all. The idea of standing up to fight all unhealthy health habits like open defecation and other unhygienic practices is a timely response to the realities of our day.
The State Wash Steering Committee is then inaugurated, made up of members of the State Executive Council in related ministries to the program. The EU and UNICEF-supported water supply and sanitation sector reform program also involves Cross River, Jigawa, Kano, Osun and Abia states.
The Lagos State Judicial Panel on restitution for victims of SARS and other related matters today listened to 5 out of the 10 petitions it listed for hearing. For the first time in the sitting of the panel, police officers accused of complicity in alleged human rights abuses also appeared before the panel to state their own side of the story. Specifically, the panel listened to the testimony of a police officer, Hamza Aruna, who was accused of alleged human rights abuses against the 34-year-old trader Ndukwe Ekekwe. Ekekwe at previous proceedings had narrated how he ended up in a wheelchair after some policemen attached to the Special Anti-Robbery Squad SARS threw him off a 2-story shopping complex at Alaba Market in the Ojo area of Lagos. What could have been an early Christmas celebration for some residents of River State turned out tragic earlier today as 2 persons reportedly died from a stampede at a venue where they were to receive food items as benefits for investing in Bitcoin. The incident happened at the Rumundara tank of the East-West Road in Obiakpo local government area as hundreds of people from parts of River State were struggling to go through the entrance of the event center that was operating that company assigned to distribute the items. However, a statement by the River State Police Command says the food items were to be distributed as palliatives by the non-governmental organization. The statement adds that investigations will be conducted and those found culpable will be prosecuted. The Nigerian LNG has signed a memorandum of understanding with Julius Berger PLC and the King of Grand Bonny Kingdom to rebuild and remodel the Bonny Consulate building. The agreement is part of NLNG's vision to transform Bonny Island in River State into an investment and tourism hub.
The rich history of Grand Bonny Kingdom tells an interesting pre-colonial story of this consulate building, which was built in the 19th century. It was from this building that all the administrative activities of the colonial masters was performed. Even though the people of Grand Bonny Kingdom are aware of its existence, only fragments of the consulate building still stand. This is why the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas Limited is stepping in with a signing of this MOU with Julius Berger Nigeria Limited to rebuild and remodel the Grand Bonny Consulate building, which they believe will transform Bonny into a tourist haven.
Let me take this opportunity to congratulate the entire people of Bonny under the able leadership of His Majesty for this major milestone in our joint efforts to transform this island into a tourist and investors' destination through our Bonny Dubai vision.
This milestone infrastructure development project will go a long way towards the advancement of the Niger Delta, and it will serve as a catalyst for the continued success of Bonny Island once completed.
Amiable and natural. After the 2 parties appended their signatures to the MOU, the King of the Grand Bonny Kingdom expresses optimism about the prospect of a rebranded consulate building, which he sees as one that will aid in the diversification of the economy of the area.
Apart from the capital that it brings into an area, it also creates jobs. Tourism is acknowledged today as one of the fastest growing industries in the world. It creates employment, brings additional income for the people of the community, leads to diversification of the economy, and creates new opportunities.
Starting by my...
Apart from remodeling the consulate building, the Nigeria LNG is also into partnership with the federal government to construct a road to link Ebonyi Island to other parts of River State. An investment which the company believes will further solidify the Nigerian LNG Ebonyi Dubai vision.
Let's take a look at some business news now. Here's Melinda Akinlami.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial star 894. Experience it. You first. First Bank.
Many thanks, Ijoma. Nigeria's foreign reserves have fallen to an 8th-month low of $34.85 billion as at December the 14th, and that's according to the data released by the central bank. The latest decline in the forex reserves is the lowest level since April, when it fell to $33.4 billion following the drop in oil prices and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic within the period. Analysts have attributed the continuous drop in the reserves to poor inflow of foreign exchange into the country, despite the central bank's intervention across the various segments of the market. Earlier this year, the country's external buffers stood at $38.5 billion. That was before the collapse in crude oil prices. The governor of Ebonyi State, Dave Umahi, has presented a budget of 122.8 billion naira for the 2021 fiscal year to the State House of Assembly. He explained that the state's expected major source of revenue will come from the Federation account, which is estimated at around 42.33% of the budget.
It's a legislative session in the Ebonyi State House of Assembly, where Governor Dave Umahi and other lawmakers are present to witness the presentation of the state's 2021 budget, an appropriation bill tagged Budget of Stabilization and Consolidation in a Recession.
Our major revenue is expected to come from Federation account, estimated about 52 billion or 42.33% of the budget.
The fight against COVID-19 may be far from over, and the Ebonyi State government is not leaving anything to chance, with more plans for COVID-19 cares and responses, as well as empowerment programs for youth and women.
We intend to deploy 3 billion as SARS empowerment program for our youth and women. We have a total budget for COVID cares and responses to be 21.211 billion or 17.26% of the total budget. We will restart all the programs of COVID-19 to ensure we escape the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Governor Umahi then presents the budget to the 6th Assembly for consideration and approval. Done with the business of the day, some lawmakers assure the governor of their continuous legislative support.
It is only appropriate to affirm that your accomplishments are a result of your commitment, your committed collaborations with us. Continue to discharge our different range of functions to ensure that your policy not only pass speedily, but as well are explained in constructive and clear terms to our dear constituents.
Apart from its major targets of improving human capital development, health and education, the 2021 budget promises a prudent approach to ensuring the overall economic transformation of the state.
The bull is gradually making a comeback to the equities market as investors record another significant gain today. Chimeze has details of the trading figures.
Well, Melinda, do you remember that idiomatic expression, slow and steady wins the race? That's the path the bull has chosen to take as the year is slowly coming to a close. Yesterday, the index went up by 1.73%. Today, the index recorded a 1.10% rise, signifying a steady path to growth as 2020 winds down. And for some traders, Santa Rally has started. Now, this is what happened today at the market. It's obvious from what we saw on Monday and today that high-cap stocks like Dangote Cement, Lafarge Wapco, Zenith and GT Bank are back on the gainers table. And of course, there is some stability on the banking sector. This is well represented on the chart. Ironically, there was bargain hunting, but volume and value reduced. Why? Because people are not desperate to sell, and those that want to buy are being cautious. So it was a case of, if I must sell, then I must sell at a high price. Basically, it was a case of buy and hold. And like I said yesterday, the equities market arguably still remains the best option for return on investment because the fixed income market is still not attractive. And so the chances of the year closing on a high note is huge. But let's keep our fingers crossed. Back to you, Mel.
Hopes of another economic relief package by the U.S. government, as well as optimism over coronavirus vaccines, outweigh concerns over fresh lockdown measures. Let's check out those global market numbers. That's business news. It's back to you, Joma.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Melinda. Still ahead on the news at 10, another COVID-19 breakthrough underway as Moderna's vaccine awaits approval after regulators say it's 94% effective. And more from our London studio in Around the World in 5. Please stay with us. Welcome back. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden will nominate Pete Buttigieg, a former campaign rival, to be Transportation Secretary. Buttigieg, who is 38 years old, is a former Indiana mayor who put his civic duties on hold to serve as a U.S. Navy intelligence officer in Afghanistan. President-elect Joe Biden also says he'll soon receive a coronavirus vaccination publicly. Meanwhile, another COVID-19 vaccine could very well be on the way for the United States, as the one being developed by Moderna Incorporated appears set for a regulatory authorization by the Food and Drug Administration. Here's Simon Pusey with more international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The European Union is set to unveil new policies in a bid to tighten regulation on how US tech giants operate in Europe. The Digital Services Act and the Digital Markets Act are expected to be focusing on competition and making platforms responsible for hosted content. They are also likely to create heavy fines for violations of the rules. EU users will have more rights to their data and smaller tech companies more market access in order to compete with the larger tech firms. A number of European countries have tightened coronavirus restrictions ahead of Christmas following a surge of infections in recent weeks. The Netherlands has entered a 5-week lockdown with non-essential shops, theatres and gyms all closing. Germany, meanwhile, will enter a hard lockdown from Wednesday after a number of infections hit record levels. In the UK, London and parts of Essex and Kent will also be placed into the country's highest level of COVID-19 restrictions from Wednesday. Italy, Spain, France and the UK are among the countries that have recorded the highest number of cases during the pandemic. The US has sanctioned NATO ally Turkey over the purchase of a Russian defense missile system. President Donald Trump's administration has said that Russia's S-400 surface-to-air missile system is incompatible with NATO technology and a threat to the Euro-Atlantic alliance. The US has already excluded Turkey from its F-35 stealth fighter development and training program over the purchase of the system. Russia and Turkish officials have condemned the move. Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara has been sworn in for a controversial third term. Mr. Ouattara has taken the oath of office after winning re-election with more than 94% of the vote. Opposition members have deemed the result illegal and said that the president violated the constitution, which limits presidents to 2 terms. Ouattara has maintained that the approval of a new constitution in 2016 allowed him to restart his mandate. His two main opponents have boycotted the election and refused to recognise the results. Kabul's deputy governor has been killed in an explosion in the Afghan capital. Mahbubullah Mahibi died after a bomb attached to his armoured vehicle exploded. He is the latest victim of multiple attacks that have targeted journalists, activists and other political figures in recent weeks. No group has yet claimed it was behind the attack. And finally, thick sea foam has covered Australian beaches as a result of the extreme weather. The rare event is due to cyclonic conditions generated by an intense low-pressure system off the Queensland coast. Locals made the most of the phenomenon, with children playing in the bubbles. A close call for this dog, which had to be rescued from the thick foam by her owner. Australia's Bureau of Meteorology said the heavy rains are expected to weaken by early Wednesday. And that's your international news around the world in 5. And now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. On to some sports. Here's Ayotunde Balogun.
Yes, indeed, Ijoma, the National Council on Sports has proposed a fresh date for the 20th National Sports Festival scheduled to hold in Benin City, Edo State. The event, which was initially fixed for this month, will now hold from February the 14th to the 28th of 2021. The Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development says it will write to the presidency for an intervention fund to support Edo State. Our Professional Football League side Aqua United insists they are fully ready for the commencement of the new season. Chairman of the club, Paul Bassi, who spoke to Channels Television, gave the assurance during the team's training session at the Godswill Lapabio International Stadium in Uyo. Wolverhampton Wanderers pulled off an upset in the English Premier League, beating the Blues Chelsea 2-1 at the Molineux Stadium. Elsewhere, West Brom forced Manchester City to a 1-0 draw at the Etihad. Ilkay Gundogan put City ahead in the game, but an own goal from Ruben Diaz ensured both teams settled for a share of the spoils. Joan Laporta has taken his campaign to become Barcelona president again to enemy territory by unveiling a colossal poster next to Real Madrid's Santiago Bernabeu Stadium on Tuesday. The audacious poster references his glorious reign as Barca president, which came at their arch-rival's expense, bearing the slogan, "Looking forward to seeing you again." And that's sports news. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Back to you, John.
Thanks, Ayotunde. And the main news again. Parents of abducted students of Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, have been keeping vigil at the school tonight, and they have no intention of leaving the school until their children are safely brought back. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks so much for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Do have a good night.